Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to this audio thing I'm about to do. It's an not audio but video version of what I'm about to say here. I'm about to read off to you right here. You see, for many of you that are on the Sonic Stadium forums, for many of you that are on the Saturday Morning Sonic forums, for many of you that are on the Saturday AM Sonic forums, the Sega forums, in the cartoon comic section, the Sonic Stadium forums, the Sonic discussion section, Saturday Morning Sonic, General Sonic Talk, and Sonic Saturday, the comics section of the message board. And to those that visit Toon Zone, the Toon Zone message forums, and you go to the comic books culture deal, and you see the Sonic the Hedgehog talkback spoilers. And for those at DeviantArt, or DeviantArt, whatever you want to call it, for Affiniate, and wherever else I may post this text version that I have in my hands, I'm doing this because I want to basically give you more of a, sort of like a video presentation of what I typed. Now, I'm sure I'll be able to post most of this into the description box so you can read it yourself or read along. But this is what I said. Basically, I started a topic up at several of the Sonic sites, except for the Sonic Stadium, which is just part of the Archie Sonic the Hedgehog section in the Sonic discussion. But at the forums, at the Sega forums, at the Saturday Morning Sonic forums, Sonic Saturday AM forums, for DeviantArt, or DeviantArt, whatever you call it, with the exception of Toon Zone comic book culture, where you find it in on the last page of the Sonic the Hedgehog talkback/spoilers. This is what I wrote down. These were basically my overall thoughts, because I was reading a lot of the posts that people made about Ken Penders and him driving himself to obsessive embarrassment, in his court case and all that, and typically about what's going on with Flynn and what has happened recently what's happening recently with some of his work. Now, this is basically what I said, and I quote what I said. And I start off by talking about the whole Ken Penders deal. So basically, let's start with Ken Penders. So this is what I said, and I quote, "Now some feel that Ken Penders is driving himself into obsessive embarrassment. The reason many fans feel this way or say this about Ken is because he hasn't even won his court case against Archie Comics. A case, I mind you, that many feel he will not win at all. But yet, he's already displaying and showing what fans could look forward to in his so-called or upcoming Guardians story." I continue on. Now, here's my opinion on why he's doing this. Ken Penders probably feels very confident that he's going to win this case, that he feels nothing can go wrong, and that him showcasing these pictures, basically the pictures of what Julie Sue will look like, Lynn Dodd will look like, and Lawless Sue will look like, that him showcasing these pictures will be just the beginning of something new. Something that he believes longtime Sonic and Knuckles fans will enjoy probably more than what they're reading currently in the Sonic comic book. And that's just my opinion on that. Now, continuing on. This may be true. However, I feel the same way as many fans do when we all say that Ken Penders shouldn't toot his horn, if you will, before his big moment, which may never come. In other words, he shouldn't blow his trunk. He shouldn't blow his trumpet in celebration for something he hasn't even won yet. The reason being is because Ken Penders is going up against possibly not just Archie Comics, but also in a way the Sega Corporation. For you see, many have pointed out the fact that Ken Penders, when he wrote for the comic initially, that he signed over all rights and characters that even he created exclusively for the comic and its spin-offs. Now, Ken Penders will deny the fact, and has denied the fact, that he signed anything that concerned his characters. This might be true. However, those in charge at Archie Comics have stated that he did sign over the rights to his characters to them. And when many fans and even experts in the business look at this case, they all say and agree that not only did Ken Penders sign over his rights to his characters to Archie Comics, allowing them to use those characters however they see fit, but in the long run, he signed over ownership of the characters to those that have the outright say on what can be used and done in the comics concerning characters, elements from the games, and overall stories that can be adapted. And those people are the Sega Corporation. Thus meaning, any characters that Ken Penders made during his run on the comic and its spin-offs now solely belong not just to Archie Comics, but more importantly to the Sega Corporation. In other words, the reason a lot of us look at this as a losing battle for Ken Penders, is due to the fact that he's going up against not just Archie Comics, but against those that actually allowed the comic to be made, and that's Sega. And that initially he's trying to fight for control over characters that now belong to Sega. Here, excuse me there. Come on my nose. Now I continue. Now continuing on, and I quote, "Now this is why many fans and many experts in the business and court cases feel Ken Penders will lose this case to Archie Comics. However, things might go a different way. And if they do, many feel that this may change the comic as they know it and have known it forever." In other words, and I'll get to that right now, because if Ken Penders wins somehow, then those characters he created during his run with the comic will be removed from the comic, or will still be used in the comic, let me repeat that, or will still be used in the comic only if Archie Comics and possibly Sega agree to pay the royalties that Ken Penders says they owe him, and continue to do so every time they use one of his characters. However, that's only if Ken Penders wins this case. But just like many fans and experts, let me kind of pull this apart here. There we go. But like many fans and experts in the law business, comic book business, and overall media court cases, I feel, with all due respect to Ken Penders and the great stories that he wrote for the Archie Sonic comic book, I believe that this whole situation is a losing battle. And I believe that for all the pictures and teasers that Ken Penders is showing us right now will all be for naught. In other words, we may see what he has planned, but we'll never see it come to fruition due to the fact that the case he's trying to win is a losing one. Now, basically what that means, folks, is that should he win, he could, Ken Penders, now what I said at the last part there is that should Ken Penders win this case, he could initially let Sega and Archie Comics still use his characters in the book, but only if they pay him royalties that they still owe him, and pay him royalties every time they use them. So in other words, let's say on one page he has Julie Sue, and he has Julie Sue, let's say in 4 panels of that one page, and let's say he charges $20 every time Julie Sue is in a panel. Then that's initially $80 for one page. And let's say the same could be said for Linda. Let's say she's in 2 panels. That's $40. And you combine that with the 80 of Julie Sue, that's $120. And then let's say they want to incorporate Lala Sue or Jeffrey St. John. Add in another 40. Add in another 40, and that's $160. And excuse me for the bird. He's chirping. I apologize for the bird. He likes to chirp. But in other words, that's another $160. So basically, you'd be looking at, if possibly, almost over $200 an issue that they would have to pay to Ken Penders if he wins this case, and they still want to use his characters. That's initially what it is. So, go figure that out. Let me check my time here. And I'm probably going to have to do this in 2 parts, but initially, folks, figure that out. Figure that out. Ken Penders, if he wins this case, and let's say Archie Comics still wants to use his characters, along with Sega, they would have to pay him the money that he would be charging for his characters. So like I said, if Julie Sue is in 4 pages, or in 4 panels on 1 page of an issue, and he charges like $20 for her, that's $80 a page. And the same could be said for Linda. Let's say she appears in the next page of an issue, and it's $20 for her. Along with the 80 and that 40, that's $120. And then let's say he wants to use Jeffrey St. John. And Jeffrey St. John is either on the next page or on the same page or whatever. But let's say he's on the next page of an issue. And he's in, let's say, 3 panels of that page. He's in 3 panels of that page. So along with the 80 for the 4 panels that Julie Sue would be in, and the 40 for the 2 panels that Linda would be in, you add 60 to that, and you're initially looking at $220. Almost $200 to $250 an issue they would have to pay him for the characters if they wanted to still use them, if he was to win this court case, which many have felt, and as I pointed out there, is a losing battle. So, I'm going to end part 1 right here, and I'll be back with part 2 where I'll talk about Ian Flynn. So stay tuned for that.